I've been sewing since I was a kid, but I have never done this before. I'm learning something new, so you can come learn along with me. We're gonna learn how to make these hexie flowers. This is an English paper piecing technique, and that's the thing that I had never done before. I'm Nikki, this is Pink Cut Sew. I'm so glad you're here. Earlier today, I put a poll on the communities tab, which tutorial you'd like me to film today, because I couldn't decide. It was either these or a quilt as you go baby bib project, which I'm still going to film. Look for that tutorial very soon, hopefully next week. My daughter saw in a antique store recently a hexagon quilt, and it was so cute and so pretty, and the colors were so fabulous, and she asked if I could make her one. I mean, I said yes, because why not? Everyone needs a good hand sewing project laying around for when they're watching TV or driving out of state or whatever it is they're doing. So this is a technique that is very old. It was very popular in the Depression era. I mean, these hexagon quilts, where this is called Grandma's Flower Garden, and you'll see these hexagons put together in a myriad of ways. She wanted the smaller flowers, and so I'm going to surround each flower with white and connect them together. I haven't really figured that part out yet, but when I get to that point, I'll definitely have a part 2 of this video so that you can sort of see how I'm going to put them together and finish the quilt. But for now, I'm just trying to get enough flowers sewn so that I can sort of see what the top will look like. I think I've made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's not very many. I'm hoping to have it done by Christmas, but we'll see. What else did I want to say? Okay, you're gonna need some pretty specific tools for this. There's obviously more than one method of doing these, so I tried to pick what I felt were the easiest techniques. So you can thread baste your pieces, but I find that really tedious, so I bought a glue stick. I was using just a regular Elmer's glue stick, but you know, when these are new, they're really slick and it wasn't tacky enough. I found the older ones worked better, but also it's sort of an awkward shape. So I went ahead and ordered the Sew Line glue stick that is specifically made for sewing, and it's just a smaller shape, and it came with 3 refills. So this was a pretty good deal. I'll link you to this. I got mine on Amazon. And then also you're going to need hexagons. You can do this more than one way too. I went ahead and ordered the pre-cut ones. They look like this. They're like a cardboardy, not super thick, you know, they're bendable because you need to bend them while you're sewing. I think that paper would be too thin, like regular paper. I know some people use like a cardstock or thicker paper, and you can buy a punch. I'll link you to those options also, but I thought this was a better deal and I just wanted it done for me. Although a punch would be really fun, I was very tempted to do the punch, but this will do for me. Then also, obviously you need fabrics. I'm going with a really scrappy look, but I wanted the centers to be really unique and different, and I absolutely love Heather Ross's fabrics. So I went on Etsy, and I'll link you to this seller because it was such a good deal. She had all these pre-cut hexagons, and they're all out of Heather Ross fabrics, which I think are so cute and fun. There's snails, let's see, butterflies. I love this moon. And so I have no regrets. I am so glad I bought this. Look at that, that's beautiful. I'm so glad that I bought this. And they come in 2 sizes. So most hexagons are either gonna be an inch or an inch and a half. Mine are the 1.5 inch hexies, and that just means they're 1.5 inches on this side. And you can also make them even smaller. I decided not to torture myself any more than I already was, and I ordered the big ones. So after I pick out a center fabric, then I just pick out something from my stash that goes with it. And Layla really loves purple. You know, she picked some colors that she didn't really want in there, and then we're just trying to keep it fun and colorful. So my center hexies are already cut, and now I need to cut 6 hexies to go around it. So this one, you can see that it's a tight fit, so it's exactly 1/4 inch. I like to cut my extra ones just a tad bit larger, just to give me some more to work with. This is not a particular science, you know, you can just hack away. Some people may be the kind of people who want to do all the cutting first. I am not that person. I like the surprise of finding the new fabric in line, the next fabric in line, and putting it together as I go. So I like to keep a few at the ready in my little sewing box. Otherwise, I just cut one at a time because I usually don't want to do more than 1 or 2 in one sitting anyway when I'm hand sewing. So I prefer to make them as I go, but you can do whatever you want. Okay, so now I have 6 hexagons cut out and ready. And now I need 7 centers. Okay, so then this is very simple. If you're thread basting, you would knot a thread on your needle, just a single layer, I think, and you would stitch right through the paper. I am not the fastest at that kind of thing. I think people who have been doing this for decades probably are pretty darn quick at that, but I'm just gonna use the glue stick. It's way faster for me. So I just put a little bit on the edge, stick it down, turn and keep going. And try to make sure I put some on the fabric also when I get to these smaller parts, so it's really stuck. And later when I take the papers out, you don't take the papers out until you're completely done putting the entire quilt top together. That glue will just, it's water soluble, so it'll wash right out later when I make the quilt. Okay, that was the last one. This is what it's gonna look like. All right, now we can start sewing them together. I like to use thread that somewhat matches. Even though you can barely see it on the outside, sometimes something might peek through. So I like to try to get something that at least blends. And don't overthink this, okay? You need a regular needle and regular thread. It's funny because I was watching videos on this, and some people say you need cotton thread. Some people say never use cotton thread. Some people say you need hand quilting thread. Some people say polyester thread is fine. So that tells me that any thread is fine. And then you need a hand sewing needle. Make sure it's sharp and pretty skinny. Okay, so for regular hand sewing, you're probably used to using doubled thread, but for this, we're just gonna use single. I'm gonna go ahead and knot the end. I'm gonna double knot. And then I like to snip it small. Thread the other end. Make sure you don't get too long of a thread. Because the thread runs along the paper several times, it will get worn out over time. And if you have too long of a thread, then the more times it has to go across the paper and it could break. Okay, so I'm gonna take my center and my number 1 hexagon, any hexagon. I'm gonna sort of go in on one of these creases to hide my knot. And then I like to get the corners really good. So you're just trying to pick up a few fibers of each fabric. So I make a stitch, and then I make the same stitch again. This is just for the corner. And then I'm gonna make a knot. I'm gonna pull up a loop. I'm gonna go through it once, go through it again, and pull it tight. Now we're gonna stitch all the way across. You do not want to do a whip stitch, which would be slanted like this. You wanna go straight. You should be able to fit at least 20 stitches across this hexagon. So that kind of tells you how tiny your stitches need to be. So I'm going to just grab a couple more fibers a teeny bit away from my first stitch. See how close those are? And then again, a teeny bit away. You're trying not to puncture the paper. That will make it more difficult to get the paper out later. You'll be able to sort of feel where the paper is, and you're just trying to skim the top of it and not poke through it. Okay, so here I am at another corner. So I'm going to go all the way to the very tips of the corners. I'm gonna sew 2 stitches there, and then again, make a knot. Make the knot however you prefer to make it. So there's my first one. You can see it's barely visible on this side. That's what you want. So now I'm gonna add the next hexie, and I'm gonna go, because it needs to go right here, I'm gonna go up this seam next in the same way. So when I start the corner though, I'm gonna make another knot. You want your corners to be very secure because you don't want holes where your corners meet. And because as you go, if something happens, say your thread knots up or something, you have to like snip the thread and go back to the beginning of the corner, you already have a knot there. So you don't have to snip the thread and then undo what you already did. Okay, and then I'm just gonna keep going down this hexie. So in order to not have to cut your thread, I learned this little trick from Kate on The Last Homely House. I love her channel. I'm so happy for her having just hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. And this is what she does when she needs to have the thread back over here, and she's all the way over here. So let me do this corner and then I'll tell you. Thread is here, but I need to be back over here because next I'm going to do this one. So Kate, instead of just carrying the thread all the way, she takes a couple stitches. One here, and then back to the corner. That was a little life-changing tip she gave me. Okay, so now you need to sew this one. So what you're going to do is bend this in half this way. You can go ahead and fold your paper. Pick up your needle and start in this corner. Knot and sew. Usually I'm able to sew half the hexagons together with one length of thread, and then I get a second length of thread for the other half, and that ends up being perfect. So I want to tell you, if you feel like tackling a hexagon quilt is just too much of a big project for you, there are plenty of smaller projects you can do with hexagons. You could make a flower and make it into a journal cover, a hot pad, a baby bib, all kinds of little things like that. So don't be intimidated if you just want to sew a few hexagons and not an entire quilt's worth. I actually have a big blog post on small quilt projects to make. It's one of my most popular blog posts, so you can turn pretty much anything into a quilt project. You could put a quilt block on the front of an apron. You can quilt block your tote bags like I've done before. You can put quilt blocks on anything. So a lot of the times I only want to experiment with some fun techniques with quilt blocks, but I don't need 100 large quilts around my house, and I don't have time to make large quilts all the time. So I challenge you to make a few hexies just for the fun and see what else you can do with them besides sewing 100 of them for a large quilt. Daughter's practicing cello. You can probably hear that. She sounds so good. I'm about to add my last hexie. This last one can feel a little bit awkward to work in, but just bend the papers as you need to and you will figure it out. All right, using Kate's trick to carry it back over here. And now I'm going to fold it this way. If I ever end up with my thread on the wrong side of my body, because I sew from right to left, I just turn it over and sew this direction. I'm going to bend this one out of my way. Okay, last one. This is a great project to take with you on road trips or anywhere where you need a good hand sewing project. It's also just good for watching movies and stuff with your fam. That's when I do hand sewing. I have this neck light. I have shown it to y'all before, but it's like a reading light that goes around my neck. So I will link you to that because that's how I get sewing done when the lights are dim, so I don't disturb everyone with harsh lights. Okay, here I am at the end. So I'm gonna knot my thread as usual. And then I'm going to bury it under here and snip. So here is my finished hexagon. Fits right in with all my other ones. I'm gonna go pin it to my board, see how it looks with the rest, and then I'll be on to the next. This is my little sewing box, so I keep my things in here. I have 2 prepped and ready to go. I will definitely keep you updated as I go and how I decide to finish these. I think it's gonna be really cute. I hope that you're inspired to try it. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and stay tuned for the baby bib tutorial that I will have very, very soon because they are really fun and cute. I'll see you soon. Bye. Yeah.
Are you still recording?
Yeah, I washed your uniform.
It's in the washer still.
It's in the dryer. I just put it in there.
It's probably not gonna be dry.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm filming, you guys. Are you okay, Layla?
Girl, I'm back in the store.
You're just choking. You're okay.
There's like something in my throat.
Can you take a drink of water?
I'm trying to play cello and I keep coughing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are we still getting Chick-fil-A tonight?
Yep.
Oh, good.
You're being recorded, FYI.
Can I drive?
I was gonna go alone.